Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the A Winner Is You podcast. You thought you were going to hear about all things Metal Gear Solid today, but you're not, as you probably know by reading the title of this fine podcast. But here we are today. We thought, well, Alex, you've got further than me in Metal Gear Solid, but I don't think either of us have finished, right? So,
nope.
Alex had the fantastic idea of, since it is 30 years of the PlayStation, we would have I was going to say an emergency podcast, not quite an emergency podcast, sort of an intersecting podcast.
Yeah, it's almost an emergency, but we caught it in time to stop bleeding.
To talk all things PlayStation. So, as Alex nicely showed me today, he's themed up, wearing his Sega t-shirt to talk about Sony. How are you today, Alex?
Yeah, well,
you've had a good day.
It's been a long day of a failed trip to the cinema with a 3-year-old who found it too scary, and then waiting 5 hours in a horrible, massive car supermarket to buy an electronic vehicle. But hey, I ain't polluting the planet anymore, so no one ever got me.
You're clean. Your hands are clean.
And it's not a Tesla, so I'm also not a fascist. So
yes.
Everybody wins.
I think you can happily attend Greta Thunberg's Christmas party now.
Yeah,
you're allowed.
Yeah. What a party that must be, eh?
Oh,
I bet she has wild shindigs.
Absolutely crazy.
Cry probably a little bit.
Yeah.
And just sit there, just going. I bet most of their party is spent exhaling, just going.
Yeah.
Old people, right? So yeah, I bet she's a great laugh.
I guess we're old people now, right? Because we can remember. Was it 90? Was it 30 years? What's 30 years? 95 would have been the PlayStation.
94.
90.
Yeah, it came out on the 3rd of December, 94. Saturday.
For some reason in my head, I always had it in my head that the PlayStation came in 1997. I don't know why.
We got it in 95, 29th of September 95, and America got it a couple of weeks earlier. But yeah, Japan 94.
So that means I would have been. Okay. I was trying to think. I've got memories of being in secondary school and the PlayStation being around, but maybe it got maybe it was the tail end of it. When did the PS2 come out?
2001. So you probably were in secondary school.
Yeah. So I think I went. I was first of the millennium secondary schooler, so I went to secondary school in 2000.
Yeah.
So I guess it would have been like 5 years old by that point. Wow. Okay. I think I am going to realise during the course of this podcast that I am misremembering a lot about the PlayStation.
Maybe. What makes you think that? The games you were wanting to pick?
No. It was just more that I under the impression that the PlayStation came out in 97 before we started this podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just think so I was thinking. So you kindly sent me a nice bullet pointed list of things to think about.
Yeah.
And there was one that you sent that had me really thinking.
It was the one I still don't have an answer for as well.
It was when I got a PlayStation, and I can remember getting every single console I've ever had, apart from a PlayStation. That seems to be like a complete blank in my mind. And I know that I've had 2 PlayStations during my life. So I think we covered this before in previous podcasts. But when you're young and you have no money, I would sell my current console to fund the next console.
Yeah, we all did that. Yeah.
But
did you ever swap games at school with your mates as well?
Yeah, I did that. Well, the problem with selling a console to get a new console, and my sort of obsession with video games, meaning I wanted to play everything, is it meant that I would often. So I think what happened was I had a PlayStation, sold it to get an N64, sold the N64, and then rebought a PS1. The little one.
That was me with the Dreamcast, exactly the same way.
So,
you missed GoldenEye 2, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That would, or maybe, I mean, but then I'm saying that, and I'm thinking it may be the other way around. Yeah, PlayStation to get N64, then sold the N64 to get PS1, and then I don't know, and I've still got an N64, but I don't know where that came from either. So yeah, a lot of misremembered. I think there's going to be a lot of misremembered things and things that I'm like, oh, is that how it happened over the course of this? Because obviously, also this is probably just at the cusp of like obviously I played loads of video games there, and I would spend all my money on video games, but it wasn't really. Yeah, this was before I was sort of consciously thinking about what I was doing as a hobby. I was just doing it as this fun thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this podcast. I think it may be a learning curve for me.
I don't have to teach you. We're just going to mostly talk about our top 10 games.
Yeah, I think your memory is going to be better than mine.
Quick reminder to anyone listening, on our infamous episode that everybody hated, we ranked the PlayStation 1 the second greatest console of all time.
Did we?
So
that's news to me as well.
I think most of my logic was it has Resident Evil, which spoiler, that's going to come up in the top 10.
I think it's so. What I did in the top 10 is, so when I started making my top 10, I was finding that multiple games from a single series would appear multiple times. So I set myself a rule. I was only allowed to pick one game from a series, and I've made a top 10 out of that. So I've got one, like for instance, I would have had Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 probably in there. I've only picked one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm not saying that you have to do that. I just did that.
No, I will do that. I will do that as well.
I just thought it would give me a better spread.
Well, full disclosure before I do that, I'm counting Dino Crisis as a different series, so that's not getting knocked out.
No, that's allowed. Yes.
So I think that one's going to have to drop in there then, I think. Yes. Right. Okay. One per series. I like it. So much more. Yeah. So Resident Evil 3's just dropped out for everybody. But that'll get a honorable mention later on. What I found interesting is I forget that the Saturn released like 11 days earlier. So that released on the 22nd of November.
Okay, yeah.
And on the first day, the PS1 sold 100,000 units when it released on the 3rd of December. And again, just want to reiterate, that was a Saturday in Japan, which seems mad to think about. But why wouldn't you release things on a Saturday when everybody can go to the shops and buy it?
Yeah.
Why was that never the actual thing that happened? When did we used to get games? Friday?
We would get them on Friday, which it seems like a sensible day to me as well, because you could get it on the way home from work and then have the weekend. Because that actually jumped up to me today. So what I do every month is I've got a paper diary I keep where I like do all my work tasks that I've got to do. And once a month, I sit with my diary and I go through and go through a list of upcoming video games and then write the days that they're coming out. I think Indiana Jones I was doing that today, and Indiana Jones is coming out on a Monday, which is a bizarre day to have a video game coming out.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's digital, lads. That doesn't mean the rules should change, or at least logic should change and get thrown out the window.
It's mental.
Here, have the game come out on the longest possible time before you get to stop being at work to play it. Fucking idiots. What I want to do at some point as well, because I believe your PS1 collection is far bigger than mine, because that's the one you started collecting.
Yes, I've got a lot. Yes,
York. So I
could tell you. In fact, I could
have a look at some of that.
Yeah, let me tell you how many PS1 games I have. It's certainly my biggest collection now is my 360 collection, because we had the 2024 was the year of the Xbox for me.
It was.
I don't know whether to continue that. That's true. I need to think about, do I want to keep that going, make another year of the Xbox, or do I want to switch console for a year? That's going to be fun for me to think about, and for nobody else. I've got 40 PS1 games.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Well, you'll probably have more of an answer then to some of the later questions than I will.
Oh, okay.
But so the Saturn, the PS1 sold 2 million units in its first 6 months. But in the first few weeks, the Saturn actually outsold the PS1.
That's interesting.
Virtua Fighter. So by the end of 1994, so with 11 days head start, by the end of 94, PS1 had sold 300,000 and the Saturn had sold 500,000, purely off the back of Virtua Fighter. Really did not maintain that head start. But I think it's interesting to see that especially if you look at the release launch games for the PS1. I remember when we did our console ranking, we went through and ranked the launches as well. And the PS1 launch, especially in Japan, is horrendous. I don't even know any of the games except for one called Neketsu Oyako, which is effectively like I can't remember the name of the company that made it. I'm going to look it up now. But it's basically like Streets of Rage. It's actually really good. I have since played it. Who made it? Technosoft. That's a really, really good side-scrolling beat 'em up. But other than that, and the only reason I know that is because I looked up like Saturn games that are worth having or that never came out over here, or maybe it was in that beat 'em up book that I got from Bitmap. But only Ridge Racer stands out as worth having at all. The rest of them I've never, like, one of them's like they've got 2 Mahjong games for fuck's sake. So a very weak start to
It's a
life.
week, especially because like it's not even like, so like, I don't know if maybe this isn't fair or accurate, but I feel like an established company like Nintendo could maybe sail the choppy waters of a dodgy launch because they've got an established history. You'll get a Mario, you'll get a Zelda, you'll know that chances are you'll get a good selection of games. Like Sony, this was a new entrant, new debut console, debut company, and they launched for that shit. That's surprised by that.
Yeah.
You would think that you'd be like, right, we need to get the launch right, and they didn't, by the sounds of it.
I'm pretty sure by the time it came out over here, like a year later, that it was slightly better. Let's see what they had in this country when we got it. Weirdly, like the US launch had loads of games, and then our one dropped back down again, even though it came out like 2 weeks later. So we didn't get games like we didn't get Rayman. We didn't get NBA Jam Tournament Edition. But we did get, so those come out in the US, but not here. We got NHL Face Off, but other than that, we got Street Fighter the movie, Ridge Racer, Rapid Reload, Wipeout,
good. Yeah,
Battle Arena Toshinden, and Kiliak the Blood. Never heard of that game.
Did we get that game? What's the game? It's got like a jester on the front. It's sort of a
Pandemonium.
Yeah, that's the game I remember. So I used to go to a youth club. It would have been around this time, and they had a PlayStation. That was sort of my first exposure to it, and they had Pandemonium. That was the game they had.
I'm just glad that I said that early enough so that Rob doesn't have to shout it on his dog walk again. Because he often likes to regale me with the fact that when he was listening to our console ranking podcast while walking his dogs and you couldn't remember the name of the game, he was shouting Pandemonium.
Was it Pandemonium? Have I got previous
confusing passers-by?
Yeah.
I didn't know it either. Me and you were both sitting here like, what's the one with the clown on? And I obviously knew what you were talking about, but neither of us knew the name. But apparently he shouted it and some other dog walking people passing by thought he was insane or was just having pandemonium to himself. Quite a fun thing to imagine, a crazy person shouting pandemonium in the street as he's walking his dog. Like, it doesn't look like pandemonium, mate.
Nice sleepy suburb.
Yeah. Well, he lives in Newcastle. Sleepy. Maybe.
Yeah.
The city that never sleeps under a warm roof. Oh, no, I can't say that. So memories, right? You got when did you get your PlayStation? I know we just said that you got it, you sold it, you got it again.
I think it must have been, so yeah, like I said, I was thinking about this, and I think it must have been possibly 97, which is why I've got the date 97 stuck in my head. I suspect that was it. I was trying to even remember. In fact, I know exactly when I'll get it. When did Croc Legend of the Gobos come out? Because I got it with that was the pack-in game, I think, at the time. That came out in 1997, yes. So I would have got mine in 97 with Croc. And what else would I have had? I think I had like all kids had. It came with that demo disc that I played endlessly. And I think I had a Ridge Racer game on it. Or Gran Turismo, one of the two.
I can't believe that one of the demo discs had Final Fantasy 7, or was it Final Fantasy 8? But I think they put like both of those things on there. I think we may have mentioned this before, that there was a Final Fantasy 7 demo on a disc. What's another game that we played where we said that was the one that came out of it, but instead of Final Fantasy 7, and everybody expected it to be the other way around?
What they released a demo and they expected you're not talking about like the Crackdown demo or the Halo demo being in the Crackdown?
No. I can't see anything obvious jumping out at me. So I'll just cut all of that out. I don't think I ever actually, other than the Japanese one that I bought, probably from bloody Sore Thumb, because I'm glad I don't go anywhere near them on Facebook anymore, because they would just put up some shitty Japanese console for like 150 quid, and I'd be like, "Yep,
here I go."
DM them immediately. Oh yes, I'll have a Famicom, please. So that I bought a Japanese one off of. You know what? I didn't even buy it off of them. Actually, I bought it on eBay, didn't I? Because I bought it after I went mad buying all the Japanese Resident Evils on like last year's summer of Resi, and thought, let me justify these so I can actually play them somewhere. So that's the only PlayStation I've ever actually bought. The other PlayStation I have somewhere up here on one of my shelves is actually my sister's, because she got a PlayStation and I got an N64. She got a PlayStation a few years after I got my N64, and she was playing like, oh man, I think she definitely got Crash Bandicoot with it. She definitely got Spyro with it. I think that might have been it. She maybe got Dance Dance Revolution with some dance mats, because I know that was primarily the reason it existed in our house. Much like after that, to the point where one of my friends borrowed the PlayStation off my dad so that he could play Dance Dance Revolution with me in his kitchen, and then he did his knee in playing football, and so he borrowed it again and then never gave it back. So actually, maybe he still has that. But my dad definitely bought a second PlayStation because he wanted it back, because my sister was like, I want to play dancing game. Where's my PlayStation? It was obviously hiding at my mate's house. And my dad went to Cash Converters and bought her another one. And I was like, oh, yeah, sorry, Dad. Chris has got it. Sorry about that. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's my sister's PlayStation I've got. I never bought that one. So I never really played too much on it until
is it a big,
she just gave up caring.
Is that a PS1
Pro Evo?
Is that a PS1 Fat? It's not like the one ONE one.
Oh yeah, no, not an ONE. No, it's a good old grey lad. But I think, yeah, like back when it was a topical console, I don't think I had too much for it. Like I say, other than like maybe whatever it was, Pro Evolution Soccer. Even I don't even think it was called that. Might be ISS Pro Evolution something or other.
How did the PlayStation?
On it.
How did the PlayStation sort of register on your radar in that sort of terms? Because you were a ride or die Nintendo boy around about those time, weren't you?
It was wholly inferior because it was half the bits, so I don't want half.
Oh yeah.
that was basically. And then Chris showed me Resident Evil, and I was like, maybe there's something to this machine. Maybe there is. But other than that, I really was just like, PlayStation shit. N64's way better, and lived that way for most of my adolescence until I realized that all games are great and we can enjoy them all, all the consoles. There's plenty of money to spend, lads.
I must have bought and like fairly regularly purchased a Nintendo 64 magazine, because I remember they used to always refer to the PlayStation as the grey station in there.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
In this magazine, and it must have been a Nintendo one then.
Yeah. But then, I mean, look where we are. Console ranking, PS1, second greatest of all time. So
yeah.
I'm totally around on it again.
What the fuck did we know?
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like CD-based gaming. Obviously, Saturn was a little bit earlier than that, but, well, people know what we think about the Saturn. I love it, but it failed.
Yeah, it's the... I don't know.
It was just the attitude and the vibe, wasn't it?
It's such a cliche thing to say, but I think it's true. It's sort of when gaming started to sort of quotation marks grow up, right? It sort of started to really stretch its legs, and you started to see people like Kojima and stuff play with the idea of what a video game could be and start pushing it in different directions. And it sort of, I mean, it's not fair to say that that's where it birthed, but that's certainly where it started to really take hold and become a bit more mainstream, didn't it, around this era?
Yeah,
and it was probably thanks to the PlayStation. Again, even their marketing was around that. We endlessly speak about being able to play Wipeout in clubs and things like that. So
exactly,
they were going for that sort of young adult crowd, which I suppose we weren't at the time.
No, I suppose we were just a little bit below that, but they must have done the maths from 83 from like the NES and gone, right, okay, it's 11 years later, so anybody who was like 8 when they were playing that is now 19, so let's make stuff for 19-year-olds.
Yeah,
so they just followed the age of the industry effectively, and then targeted the people who would have grown up playing NES or Mega Drive when they were a kid. And the attitude of the games industry went from Sonic's kind of childish attitude, like cheeky attitude, charming, cheeky, kind of like dude, to grotty teenagers who want blood and drugs and tits if they press R1 in Metal Gear 3. And obviously it worked. The thing was a huge success. No one could have predicted that, surely, especially after getting dropped by Nintendo for Philips, and really not driving the life of the library of the console via their own output for the most part. It was just buying up studios as second party or first party, studios that they purchased, and then third party support that just up the wazoo and killed everybody with it.
Yeah.
There was no one to make games for the other systems other than Nintendo and Sega. Nobody left.
Do you know how the company was perceived? Because I'm quite sort of endlessly fascinated by the idea of a new entrant, because it just seems so alien today, the idea that a new manufacturer would enter the fray. Because I remember like when Google came along, that was met with nothing but cynicism when they started trying to sort of enter the gaming ecosystem. So, and then also I sort of remember via sort of Jeff Gerstmann talking about the launch of the Xbox. Microsoft were seen equally skeptically when they were coming along. I wonder any idea how PlayStation were seen? Was this sort of a younger, greener, more accepting era where people just sort of accepted it? Or I wonder, because I guess Sega and Nintendo were pretty dominant by that stage.
I suppose they were, yeah. I think maybe off the back of Sega's problems that they had. I mean, you only need look at the years leading up to the release of the PlayStation, and there are 4 Sega consoles to 2 Nintendo. You've got the Master System, the Mega Drive, the Mega CD, and the Saturn, and then there's the 32X, which we didn't even include in that when we were doing the list before.
Yeah,
just versus the NES and the SNES. So Sega had obviously gone way overboard and diluted the market with their own spin-offs and add-ons and confusing their audience of what their actually main console was. So I think their stock was already on the wane. Nintendo had just spent the last 4 years being painted by Sega as babyish and for children. So probably older people saw PlayStation with its graphics and its CDs and its soundtracks and its attitude. Maybe they saw that as, well, I mean, and also the E3 thing, right? Where the guy walked up and did the whole, whatever it was, 399 versus after all that talk from the Saturn, the Sega guy. And then he said the Saturn would be 499. He just walks up, said 399 and sat back down again. I saw something crazy because that was the first E3, I think. And apparently at the PlayStation launch party or the PlayStation E3 party, they had Michael fucking Jackson performing, or not even performing, just kind of walking about. And apparently, I think Jeff Keighley has had some anecdotes about it. And apparently he was just like sat playing Ridge Racer on an arcade machine most of the time, just not talking to anybody. I mean, the guy knows what he wants in that instance anyway.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeesh. So yeah, I don't actually know. All I know is that I probably didn't pay that much attention to it at the time because I was still in the Sega and Nintendo sort of age range, I guess. As I assume you were, because you were younger than me.
Yeah, definitely. I was playing Banjo-Kazooie and thinking that GoldenEye was the most impressive game I'd ever seen in my life. I think at this time.
I think, that's probably where I looked down on PlayStation, is because I was probably looking at like things like my sister was getting, like Crash and Spyro, and being like, yeah, but I've got Mario 64 and Banjo. Like, what? This is shit. Because I wasn't paying attention to the more adult stuff that was actually really, really impressive. And it wasn't until I wanted to play games like Pro Evo and SmackDown that I stole my sister's PlayStation to play those. It became a must-have to me for that. I'm kind of like, the kids now with their COD and FIFA. I wanted Pro Evo and wrestling.
As
was the style of the time.
I actually think it was SmackDown and SmackDown 2. I think that really caught my attention. I think, and then I think that I'm trying to think of like when you're talking about that and like what put this console on my radar. It was certainly the wrestling games, Tony Hawk. But I think by the time Tony Hawk came along, I probably had a PlayStation already.
I think I went back to Tony Hawk when I started to get into skating and skater culture, and someone was like, "Oh, mate, you played these games where you can be better at skating than you are in real life." Hey, and also it's got these songs that you already know. What was I going to say? Talking about the sort of that you buy Nintendo magazines at the time, which I was also doing. I vividly remember the first time I bought a games magazine that wasn't either multi-format or Nintendo, was to buy a PlayStation magazine because it had a finishing move book on the front for the SmackDown game.
Yes.
I think it was for SmackDown 2. It had all the wrestlers' moves in like a guidebook on the front. That's the first PlayStation magazine I ever bought.
I hope it was a book for the finishing move. L1.
Yeah, I don't know why I'd need that.
Wasn't Warzone and the Attitude were the ones that had like you had to memorize stupid codes, and then developer realized that people that are playing the game actually want to do these, so stop fucking them off.
Play a Royal Rumble. I always remember playing a Royal Rumble with my friend on that game, and if you picked Bret Hart, and I think it was like left down, left C, he'd do a belly to belly suplex and throw them over the top rope, and you would just spam that and win without any effort. Those games are terrible.
They're awful.
Shame on them.
Yeah.
I remember my friend around the corner had a PlayStation actually, and I was probably jealous of him because he was getting all sorts of fucking weird wrestling games on that. Like he got one of the pre WCW NWO games on it, and then he got Attitude and Warzone, or the other way around, actually, wasn't it? And I remember thinking that we used to sit in his games room or whatever it was, and just put on, like, go through the menus and look at all the entrance videos and the music, and we'd like pretend to be the wrestlers walking into his room and then like play fight each other. And I remember when I got the N64 version, going to do the same, and then it being like this disgusting compressed like 3 JPEGs and a horror like 10 seconds of the song on loop, thinking, what the fuck is this? Why is it not as good as the PlayStation, despite the fact that I've got double the bits?
Do you remember that was a big thing with SmackDown 2, because I think it was SmackDown 2 that they introduced entrances. Because in SmackDown 1, the entrance would just be their music and then them walking in front of their video. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. And then, but yeah, for the second one, I think, you're right. They sort of bust down to the ring and Rock's doing his whole his shtick. We're going to have more about that later, I think. Let's dive into the meat of the podcast, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do our top 10 PlayStation games. Just, I'm assuming you understood that it's just PS1.
Yes.
It's not like
yes.
It is 30 years off PlayStation, the brand, and I've heard other podcasts do like, let's talk about PlayStation as a whole. But when this podcast is called 30 years of PlayStation, it's the PlayStation, not PlayStation.
I mean, why would we do anything else? Because it means that we can come back and do a PS2 podcast later on. 2 for the price of 2 instead of...
See you in 2031.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Well, I suppose 2026 will be 25 years, won't it? So we'll do it like we did for something I've forgotten, because I'm mush. My brain is mush today. But rather than doing like in a collective top 10, we'll just do like take it in turns. And if anybody has a game that the other person has, if it's higher up in the list, we'll wait till that person gets to it.
Okay.
And do it then.
Okay.
So go. You're number 10.
Colin McRae Rally 2.0.
Ooh, nice. Not in my list, that one.
Yeah, I've just got such a fond memory for the Colin McRae Rally games in general, and the Colin McRae Rally 2 was the better version of the 2 Colin McRae Rally games. So that was the one I picked, because they added damage in a way that wasn't in it. It was like they had visible damage, and your wheels and stuff could come off, and bits of your car could fall off. It was just that I maintain to this day that Codemasters are, in terms of like sort of arcade racers, not the simulation class, but in terms of arcade racers, I don't think Codemasters. There's anyone that makes arcade racers better than Codemasters. So like their Formula One games are fantastic. The grid games are fantastic. The Colin McRae games are fantastic. Like they just make really, really, really good racing games, and this is another example of that. I guess probably by today's example, or by today's standards, it's quite a simplistic game. It's literally just open your menu, pick your race, and go through the races, and there's nothing sort of added on, no bells and whistles going on around the game. But that doesn't detract from the fact that it's a mechanically solid game that I actually was playing them last night. It holds up very, very well.
Oh, really? You played it last night?
Yeah.
On your PC or on?
Yes.
Have you got this one? Do you own this?
I own
amongst
this?
The Magic 40?
I have Colin McRae Rally 1.0. Yeah. And that's kind of all. It's
Rally games.
Carry on.
Rally games really like lean into being arcade in feel, even if they're trying to be a simulation of rally driving. They still feel arcadey to play because you're always throwing your car drifting round corners. I don't think I've ever played this one though.
Yeah, and I think for its time I was going back and looking, and it's an opportunity to do more with the vehicles because there's only ever one vehicle on screen in a rally game. Certainly the early rally games. It doesn't.
I guess that explains the damage.
The damage which you weren't seeing in other types of games, racing games, and I guess I wonder if it makes it easier to code for because you don't have to sort of code any AI or anything like that because literally the only moving piece in the game is the player character.
So there was never any like Sega Rally style versus stuff. It was all just time trial.
Not that I can remember, no, and not that I saw. It's essentially just a time trial game.
I'm very interested that you said the grid games in amongst that because I've never played those. Are they good? Yeah,
they're very good. Yeah, it's very good. I think that's the first game that I remember walking into a store and thinking it's far too expensive. It's sort of an era where video games were like £30. It was coming in at 50 quite often. When I'm in Game Station was where I was buying games in that era. Okay. But it's very good. I remember I went back to it years later, and it's excellent. Yeah,
interesting. I'm going to look into that. Because I do love an arcade racer.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you think of it, especially because you've had your sort of renaissance with things like, is it Ridge Racer? Of late, so that's a very good another good arcade series. So I'd be interested to see what your feelings of it on sort of Codemasters racers in general, having sort of been sort of diving deep into the arcade racer of late.
Indeed, yeah. I need to take more of a look into them because the dirt games, love them. Good choice for number 10. My number 10, Time Crisis.
That is my number 9. So I guess it's
your number 9. There we go.
It's time to go, isn't it?
Yeah. I actually don't currently own this, but I have put it on my Christmas list, which is all I think is brilliant in 2024. Like, somebody buy me Time Crisis for £8 from CEX, please.
Do I have Time Crisis? I do not have Time Crisis. I thought I did. That's a shame. Oh well.
So mostly I've played Time Crisis in arcades.
Yeah, I did actually waver about putting this on my list or not because my experience of Time Crisis is largely arcade rather than PlayStation. But there are sort of few moments when I do love a light gun game. Game.
Me too. And this probably was the first one that was on my radar, I think. Maybe House of the Dead. But Time Crisis, if I remember rightly. Yes, so this is the one that had the red and a blue gun, from what I can see here from original.
On the arcade, yeah.
Yeah, rather than the pink one, which they changed later on, I guess, to, I don't know, get girls involved.
What was the pink? Was that Time Crisis 2?
Pink.
The pink one?
I think so, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think so. I don't really. There's not a massive amount to say about Time Crisis, is there? It's just really, really good fun, and
It's yeah.
will hold up forever. I think it's a bit bare bones on the PS1. It's like there's not as much going on in the background. They're quite basic to look at. The action's still heavy enough, but like compared to Time Crisis 2 on the PS2, like it's quite a world away from that. But bringing these types of games to the PlayStation, which the N64 didn't have a light gun, so there was nothing on there that could compare to this. But when you think that the PlayStation was getting quite a large amount of light gun stuff on it, like this, and there's a Point Blank series, and there's not House of the Dead, because that wasn't on there, was it? There was one more I was going to think of, but
I mean, there's that Die Hard one from Die Hard trilogy.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, Die Hard trilogy's second part.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these, like I say, these, if you've got the means to play them on if you've got an old enough TV and you've got the original Gun Con, then there's nothing that will age about these.
No, it's
endlessly fun.
It's a genre that just sort of nailed what it was wanting to do, and yeah, I don't think it's every time these type of games come up in this podcast, I say that it's a shame that we don't really get many of them anymore. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because even the method of playing a light gun game nowadays is you sort of dragging a cursor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not dragging or are you? Yeah, I guess you are, because if you play them on mostly it's going to be on the Switch these days.
Yeah,
you've got, and they'll be using the controller rather than an actual gun. So you're using the pointer, but it's more of a Wii pointer than a straight up however a light gun actually works, a flash that it picks up from. I don't know how it fucking works.
I have no idea how it works.
It's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Oh, it's me again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's you, because you nipped in there with my number 9.
Yeah, maybe I've got a higher one for you as my number 9. My number 9 is SmackDown 2. Know Your Role.
No, that sort of went into my honorable mentions. Yeah. I don't know why, because that is probably, that along with the Tony Hawk games, is probably the games I've played the most in terms of time spent playing a PlayStation with a controller in hand. I'm not sure why. Just on another day, it may be in my top 10 list, but for some reason it just didn't make it today. I just didn't feel it. SmackDown 2 is the one, though. It's like the added match types. They just went wild. Yeah. They went wild with that, and that was great. And I think I've said this before, but my cousin and I would spend literal weeks of the summer making our own pay-per-views, talking about them, and then just playing them out. It was just so much fun. And it also had a 2-player career mode that you could do as well, which was truly excellent.
I was going to bring that up because that's my biggest memory of that game, is that that and buying that magazine, but I think that was the same day I bought that magazine, is because my friend Bear had gotten it for his PlayStation, and I remember we ran back to his house all the way home so we could play a tag team career with the Dudley Boys, immediately get in there, and then couldn't figure out how to do the fucking 3D because it was almost impossible to pull off, because I think you had to whip somebody into the ropes.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
or something. Yeah. But that 2-player, we couldn't believe that was going to be in there. We can actually do a tag team career. This is going to be the best game ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what we want from a game right now. It's wrestling, and we don't have to sit there watching each other. We don't have to fight each other anymore. No more arguing. We're a tag team now, bro. Let's run home quick.
Yeah, I've got my memory of that is, I think me and my cousin, we did play that, and we sat and made our own wrestlers, and we had a tag team run, and then I don't know what happened, but I don't know if it was I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know whether we started a new one or if it was something that would naturally happen, but we ended up having a title run against each other that was just one of the most epic.
I thought you could split them up. Yeah.
Titanic battles I remember he had the title going into it, and we had this the hardest wrestling match of my life because it was all we played, and I somehow won. And then my character was speaking to the commentator after, and my cousin's character ran up, hit me on the head, and ran away with the belt. I was genuinely annoyed because I was just I have just worked so hard for this, and you've just ran off with it.
Through some AI programming. It's nothing to do with your skill. Oh, what a jabroni.
Yeah, we had that was close to a fallout. We had some near fallouts. I made him cry once because we were playing Mario Kart and he led the entire way, and right on the line, I hit him with a red shell and won.
I mean, come on, you know that going in. You
Yeah.
know that going in. That's yeah. Friendships hangs in the balance of a nicely placed red shell. It's interesting to think about the fact that like everybody looks back, everyone talks about classic wrestling games, like even fucking AEW when they brought out that terrible game of theirs. They
It's
banged
such a
on
shame
about,
that's bad.
yeah, oh, we've got Ukes. We want to make this game feel exactly like WWF No Mercy, and WWF No Mercy is obviously a classic. But I think the SmackDown 1 and 2 on the PlayStation get the short shrift when people talk about the golden era of wrestling games, because they had a very different feel to them. They were so much faster. Like
yeah,
the
they
No
were
Mercy
rapid
games. Yeah, they were all about your strong and your weak grapples, and sort of almost like an actual, wrestlers wrestling game. Whereas this was more of an arcade feel to it. And again, for the age that we were all at that point, with the full videos and stuff, and the things that the CD format actually provided to make the game look more realistic and immersive, because you've got all these music videos and songs. It was like twice as fast as No Mercy.
Yeah.
So it just felt like really refreshing and like a totally different style of experience, but equally as good as the N64 ones. And of course, the SmackDown games are the ones that carried on and on and on and on and on right up to now. And then the N64 ones kind of died.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they did a lot with things that, I don't know. Just you're right. I was trying to think of, like, obviously we spoke about the WWF Warzone and Attitude games that were terrible, and then it was Ukes, wasn't it? That in THQ that released the WCW ones. Is that how it worked? Because WCW versus NWO Revenge, I think, was the one that I remember, the first wrestling game that I remember being really good.
Yeah, like it looks as if THQ were the publishers of both, but this is Jack's Interactive that made this one.
Interesting.
So does it say prepare for the most outrageous experience ever created? Brawl in the ring, backstage. Yeah, we took
backstage,
bro. Press triangle.
Oh yeah.
You could parking lot.
Climb up on the back of hospital vans, ambulances, jump off, and you had table matches as well.
WWF New York Tornado Tag Team Mode. If that's not hardcore enough, pull out the tables, ladders, or chairs and get really nasty. What a weird last line of the box thing. Interesting to see that China is on the front of this box, and may she rest in peace. And the guy who, my friend Bear, who we ran home to play this, he at some point managed to convince his dad to buy him the issue of Playboy that China was in. I don't know why he wanted to see that, but his dad bought it for him. And obviously I had a look. We all wanted to shoot.
Yeah, you had to.
What a weird kid.
China of X-Pac sex tape fame.
Which, again, out of curiosity, we've all had to have a look.
Yeah.
Steroids do weird things to a woman's body. Let's just say that.
Press
large parts you don't want enlarging.
Press R1 to stare at boobs.
Yeah, good lord. She was more plastic than woman.
Pixelated square boobs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's my, and on that note, that's my number 9. What's yours? Number 8?
Number 8, I have got Croc, Legend of the Gobos. You knew it was going to be in there somewhere.
Take it. Take the reins off.
This is just I guess I was going to say that we don't really get them anymore, but I guess we're having somewhat of a renaissance of platformer games, aren't we? So yeah, this was just sort of, in my mind, this came along at peak platformer time, where I don't know, so Mario was obviously the mascot for Nintendo, and Sega had Sonic. Did PlayStation have a mascot, or was this, or because I remember there being a run of time where there was just lots of sort of mascotable games coming out. And yeah, this was sort of I
think one of the first ones they got was Bubsy 3D, wasn't it? And less said about that.
That was truly awful. But yeah, Croc. I think this is one that I'm the remaster's supposed to be coming out in December, so I'm interested to see
yes.
how that works, because one thing that would be a problem going back to Croc today is the lack of a right thumbstick ability to move the camera around, which it doesn't exist in that game, which makes it feel quite clunky by today's standards. But back in the day,
I feel like tank controls from
it does, yes.
The memory of
yes.
watching footage of it.
Yeah.
Effectively, like you stop and then you turn and then you walk forwards. Yeah.
It is what it is. It's just a really cutesy mascot character, and you're going around levels trying to save these little furball things that look like tribbles from Star Trek, and that is it. It's quite difficult, punishingly difficult in the later stages. But yeah, this is a game that probably wouldn't be on most people's lists, but for some reason, this is just a game that, I don't know, I just fell in love with it as a kid, and I've just got such fond memories of the little crocodile with his backpack on for absolutely no reason.
I like Croc's sprite.
Yeah,
that's a nice sprite, nicely animated as well.
In its essence, it's essentially a competent platformer game.
Yeah, I think if they bring, as you say, if they bring that out now with full analog control rather than full directional tank control movement and a movable camera, that could breathe a whole new life into that game.
Yeah, a fun little time. You could, of course, use the monkey bars, so you could climb on things and swing about. That was probably its interesting point. There was always a secret exit to each level.
Nice.
Which would
Who
then
made Croc?
Who made Croc?
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted where these secret levels go, but I just thought to myself, I have no idea who made this
Someone
game.
called Argonaut Software and published by Fox Interactive.
Shit! Argonauts, the Star Fox guys. They're the ones who made the Super Effects.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
See, Nintendo fucking hemorrhaging all their mates. Argonaut have already fucked off, having created a fundamental part of the SNES architecture, well, cartridge architecture. They've already fucked off to Sony with the rest of the lads, Square Enix and Argonaut, in the no Nintendo party. Croc, Legend of the Gobos.
He's made it. He's in the list.
A very David choice. It had to be done. Have you got any of these? I want to whip them out because that makes good SEO.
I have Croc.
I
have Croc, Legend of the Gobos.
You should whip all these discs out. I'm going to whip mine out. I'm going to go get my list ready.
I've got a nice pile of games here, and if a game gets mentioned that I have, I'll whip it out.
Nice.
So yeah, just to sort of kick that off, WWF Warzone gets a mention. We've also mentioned. I'll leave that in case it's on a list, actually, and I can. Oh yeah, what was I looking for? I went looking for Croc, didn't I? I have Croc, good old Croc-a-doodle.
Yeah, big nostrils on that boy.
And the other one that we discussed that I have. Oh yeah, and we'll add this one as well. Good old Colin McRae Rally.
Yes. Yeah, see, I don't have the Tony Hawk game that I want to talk about later, but I've got 1 and 3. Oh, I've ruined it.
Well, you're lucky I do.
Yeah, there you go. You can do that. This is going to be all
when
over
it comes
the
up.
YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
This is what the people want to see.
This is what they want to see.
My number 8 is Ridge Racer Type 4.
Have I? Can I take your Ridge Racer?
You can use the DualShock on this bad boy.
Oh, that must have been fairly early on in the DualShock life, I would have thought. I have 2 Ridge Racers. So we've got Type 4.
Do you?
And Ridge Racer Revolution.
I have Rage Racer.
Oh, Rage Racer. I was reading about that in Retro Gamer fairly recently.
Yes. I didn't know you had Type 4. Have you played it a lot? Because it's fucking amazing.
I didn't know I had it until I was looking at my PlayStation games today either.
See, I actually first experienced Type 4 when I started this Ridge Racer retrospective thing that I've been doing this year, and I played it on the Vita because it's still available on the Vita store. So I got it for a couple of quid while I was on holiday in the summer.
Excellent.
It's got this. It's got a career mode, effectively. Well, it's got a Grand Prix mode, but what you have to do is like you join different racing teams so they have different, like, I suppose, difficulties behind them. So you can have like a Japanese team, an Italian team, a French team, American team, I think, and then you can pick different cars that then you'll get like different cars from that team. So the Japanese team will keep giving you better Japanese cars, and you'll have like little bits of dialogue in between Grand Prix races where they sort of say to you like, "Yo, you're not going to be able to stay on the team unless you get 2 wins and however many points in this set of Grand Prix." But this game, man, like just the vibes of it, the way that it looks, like this, Ridge Racer with like a night setting and some neon lighting and the brake lights and all that kind of shit, the look that it gets and the soundtrack, like this for me is like right up there. This series is right up there with the attitude of what
I'm going to have to try it.
Encapsulated. You'll really like it. The drifting is quite easy to get your head around, because it's basically you just kind of let go of the accelerator and then press it again hard after like a second's delay. So if you're coming into a sharp corner, you just take off accelerator and then press it down again, and then you're sliding around those corners. So it's not too difficult to get used to. And like I say, that Grand Prix mode is really in depth for what is essentially an arcade racer, but it's, you've basically got 4 different career modes to do, one after another, that get more and more difficult. And the soundtrack just kicks ass. It's so good. So good. That's easily the best Ridge Racer game I've played out of all of them so far that I've done. And I've played, I've played some of the more recent ones, but they just don't quite have the feel of that, like this essence of cool about them. That game reminds me quite a lot of the one that we tried to play, or at least I started trying to play, that Racing Lagoon.
Yes.
Obviously, yes, without all the terrible cutscenes and bullshit dialogue and boring parts and really difficult racing, well, really high level of difficulty. This one is just, a really solid, like, probably, have I got any more racing games here? No. So there you go. It's de facto my favorite racing game on the system.
And according to my spreadsheet, it was developed and published by Namco and came out in 1998.
Yeah.
3 years after Ridge Racer Revolution, yes.
Yeah, that's effectively, I think, Ridge Racer 2.
Right, okay.
For the arcade Ridge Racer 2, but brought to home consoles, because it's Ridge Racer, then Revolution, then Rage Racer, then Type 4, I think. I think that's the order they came out in on the PlayStation.
Wonder why they went with Rage Racer.
I'm not entirely sure why they called it that. I'm pretty sure that's effectively Ridge Racer 3. Let's have a look. Oh no, that's the 5th one. So that comes after Type 4. It's the 5th installment in the Ridge Racer series and the 3rd on the PlayStation following Ridge Racer Revolution. No, so it is the 3rd one on the PlayStation, and then Type 4 was the one that followed it in 98.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it was called Rage Racer.
Yeah, it's interesting that they'd sort of abandon a recognizable name,
and then kind of bring it back for the 4th one.
Yeah. Almost, that's sort of the reason I asked, is I was half expecting you to tell me it was a sort of different type of game, almost like a
the box art's confusing. It looks
Vigilante 7 type thing.
Yeah, it's got an odd box art and an odd naming convention. It doesn't really make a lot of sense why it's called that and looks like that. Not to be confused with Ridge Racer, says Wikipedia. Well, that's just making it even more confusing. But yeah, fucking love it. I hope you give it a go, because I look forward to hearing your opinions on it, because I think you'll have a crack in time.
Yeah,
but that's my number 8.
So I'm on to my number 7 then, I guess, which I do have, I think. I surely have this. Do I not have this? I don't own it. I'm gobsmacked. That must be, maybe it's expensive now, but I think it reached platinum.
Is screaming from another room.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
The nature of this podcast, where we're going to
go straight to games. So I'm going straight to Vinted. So my number 7 isn't on Vinted. Okay, my number 7 is Oddworld: Abe's Odyssey.
Of course.
I'm assuming that'll be much more neat on the podcast, but I really hyped that up. I kept saying, my next game is, my next game is. I never.
Yeah.
It's a really. I just loved the vibe when I was little. It was a cool little story of this little farting alien that was just running for his life because they found out they were making him into pies. And it's for those that I'm assuming everybody knows or that's listened to this podcast has heard of the game, but for those that haven't, it's essentially a sort of 2D side-scrolling puzzle game. You will move into an area and there'll essentially be a puzzle for you to figure out, for you to try and get Abe from one side of the screen to the other, then on to the next puzzle. And you can do things like you're like going around pulling levers to move things in different places. He also has this chanting ability where he can sort of possess enemies to allow you to move about. And it's just a sort of whimsically dark. Is that a contradiction? No, I think that works.
Yeah, maybe a little. Yeah. Well, yeah, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just sort of a whimsically, darkly funny platformer puzzle game that's I just think is extremely simple, but it's just fun to play. Did you play this game?
Lemmings vibes, but
yeah, that's fair.
Wrong.
Yeah, you've got to try and because that's the other thing is you've got to try and help rescue your Mudokon contemporaries, and the game there's sort of a good and bad ending depends on how many you manage to rescue.
Did they recently remaster?
Yeah, remaster / remake. I think it probably fall into the remake territory. It's a shot for shot remake, but it looks completely different now.
Did you play that in the end?
I didn't. I don't think I did. Or if I did, I didn't stick with it.
I don't know if I ever have played this. I've probably maybe I have, but I've definitely never owned it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've just had an interest in it because I know how much you love it, because it's one of these games that when we have discussions about this era always comes up for you, same as Croc.
Yeah, so like I say,
I should know your top 10 off by heart by now,
probably. But, it's
yeah, I've never played these games.
It doesn't do the traditional video game power fantasy either. You're in almost every scenario the weakest, most squishy part of whatever you're looking at and interacting with. It's everything in the world is brutally dangerous, and you're just generally trying your best not to die. And it also had sort of a very basic communication mechanic, so you can like say hello to your Mudokons and like tell them to go different places and do different things, which was quite fun. Yeah. It spawned it was meant to be a long running series. So we got Abe's Odyssey 1, or Abe's Odyssey was the first one. Then we had Abe's Exodus, and then they had, I don't know if I'm missing any, but then there was Munch's Odyssey, which came out on Xbox, and that was a sort of 3D platformer. And then there was Stranger's Wrath, which was a first person shooter, ostensibly.
Yeah, and then New and Tasty.
And then
Soulstorm.
Oh, I don't know what that one. Oh, don't know what that is.
Because the developer is Oddworld Inhabitants, apparently.
Oddworld Inhabitants, and it's Lauren Lanning, I think, is the guy.
That's it. Yep, and Sherry McKenna.
Yeah.
Why is Oddworld Soulstorm? It's a direct sequel to New and Tasty and a reimagining of the story from Abe's Exodus.
So New and Tasty and Soulstorm are 1 and 2 done again, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go and check them out. I wonder how much they are.
I think you are.
Let's have a quick look on the store. This is going to be a lot of this podcast, I'm afraid. Sorry, your
editing's going to be...
it's 99p.
Hello.
On Steam.
Soulstorm?
New and Tasty is £3.74. And the OG Abe's Odyssey is 99p. I'm gonna get them both. Fuck it. I'm going on a mission here.
I'll watch you play those.
Hell yeah. Soulstorm is £7.49. Maybe won't get that straight away. I'll get that later. But Abe's Odyssey is for 99p, and then the new and Tasty will be the one I play. Odyssey is the one I just want to have it.
Considering when I went to the cinema
I've got them. Fuck's sake. I don't have New and Tasty though. I'll get that. I'm buying it now.
When I went to the cinema today, I'm pretty sure I paid £7.50 for a large Coke. or a large Pepsi Max. So a 99p for a game you have loved for a long time
Hell yeah. Oh, I could.
makes all the sense in the world.
Have you ever bought a game on Steam that includes soundtracks? How do you access the soundtrack?
I have not
So
actually.
for an extra
good
£2,
question.
you can get the complete edition, which seems to.
Hopefully they just give you some MP3
two
file in a folder,
soundtracks.
but-
Yeah, I'm getting that one. I'm doing it for my account.
Is the soundtrack noteworthy? Or is it just fart noises? I don't actually know.
I have no idea. I will report back on a future podcast.
Please do. I think, well, yeah, I think I've got a fucking Death Smiles soundtrack with that box that I got on Xbox 360, and that was on a little CD you had to put in your PC.
Ah, yes.
How quaint.
Do you still own any CDs that you would keep on display in the same way that we've got a video game collection?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, my wife is not. She is not pleased, nor is she understanding of why they're even there. She doesn't understand why I've got them there. Why are these here? You don't need them. Like, yeah, but I bought those like 25 years ago. So yeah, they stay. They're in the living room, just a massive like shelf of CDs for no reason. We've got a CD player down there in like a little stereo system, but I don't use them.
Yeah,
Who needs a CD?
Yeah, well, that's it. It's funny that I've
Who's buying them? I don't want to crush my musical tastes evolution. I don't want to see that broken in front of my eyes.
Do you think you'll ever buy a CD again?
To Cassie, and she'll do it. No,
probably never will.
No, I don't think I'll ever own music again. Will I? I'm just
that's true. You probably won't. Yeah.
It is funny because I recently changed mobile contracts, so I went from EE to Tesco because Tesco don't up the price of their contract in the middle of it. Unlike EE, who did it 2 months into my last one.
Oh, that's
by like
I am going to look into that.
Month.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that because I recently had a huff with EE that I told you about, where they tried to make me pay my way out of my SIM-only contract.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is my first SIM-only contract ever. I've always upgraded my phone. So the first time I thought, you know what? I'd rather pay less for a month and just keep an iPhone 14. That will do. But anyway, because I had Apple Music through my EE contract for so many years, and now I've swapped over to YouTube Music with a cheaper family subscription. It's funny to go into my Apple Music and see that like the songs that I've bought still lingering. They're the only ones my phone will let me access. Everything that was added from Apple Music is just immediately deleted from your phone library. It's just, here you go. You can have this one you bought in 2014, you twat.
I had that a bunch because I used to buy audiobooks, and I had a bunch of like IGN's Damon Hatfield's Knocking Boots like things where they would just like listeners would just write in their love questions, and they would sort of sit and get drunk and answer these questions, and I used to buy them and listen to them. So I've just got my Apple account's probably just full of those.
Full of Damon Hatfield reading out sex questions.
Yeah, like weird nerds, awkward sex questions. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's excellent. Right, anyway, what were we doing?
I talked about Abe's Odyssey at number 7 for me.
Yeah. My number 7, which I may be higher in David's list, is Dino Crisis.
It is higher on my list, and I don't own it either, unfortunately.
You'll be paying a pretty penny if you want to.
Yes.
Right, go on then.
My number 6, which I do have 2 versions of, but the version I have picked is Medal of Honor. So we have Medal of Honor Underground being added to the shelf behind me for those listening to the podcast. It is just a really cool shooter. I am a well-known enthusiast for like proper, I don't know, serious in quotation marks, but like a World War II shooter. I still enjoy them to this day, and I think like it largely sprouts from these games. It was my introduction to the shooters in this genre of like World War II. It wasn't Call of Duty like it was for most people. It is Medal of Honor for me, and Medal of Honor Underground. Medal of Honor also had it wasn't just a straight run and gun shooter, which it did a very good job of just being a normal shooter, but it sort of planted you throughout World War II in like key moments. It had stealth sections where you would dress up as people and show them your papers and things like that. And it was just a really quite a smart and well done game. It had an interesting development history as well, didn't it? So it was developed by DreamWorks Interactive, I think.
Yeah, because that's Spielberg's
Yes,
company, isn't it? So, yeah.
DreamWorks.
It
And
was
Spielberg was
well
involved.
worth
Yeah.
the shit at that point.
The narrator in the game is a real life World War II veteran as well, who they had sort
That's
of
cool.
drafted in as a sort of an advisor, because there was a lot of concern that they were going to sort of entertainment eyes because of,
Well, yeah. It's a new concern. I guess people are still upset about Wolfenstein,
Yeah.
maybe? I don't know.
So they wanted it to be a fun game, but they wanted to also pay the respect that the war itself was due. So they
Remember when they
introduced
still
this
did
guy.
that?
Yeah. So yeah, it was just like we talked about video games trying to sort of grow up during this era, and this was a concerted effort to give you a serious shooter. You probably didn't learn anything from it, but it wanted to sort of reflect World War II, which I think at the time, for what was available to it, it did. And the sequels it spawned were almost all good as well, and they are quite iconic. The one that sticks in my head is one that we covered for this podcast, Medal of Honor for the front line, which has the sort of D-Day landings in it. And I just thought that's
the first one I played.
It was excellent.
World War II game I think I ever played was Frontline.
Yeah. Did you ever play Medal of Honor OG or Underground? You play a female in Underground. You're a French resistance fighter.
Yeah. I don't know if I have, because again, this is another game that I have, you've spoken about before, and I have an interest in because of that. But I don't. I think I must have played it somewhere, maybe with you, or at yours or something. I don't know. But I feel like you've shown me the Underground one, because that's the female. She French resistance spy.
French resistance, yes.
And she gets dropped over enemy line. Is that right? In Germany.
Well, you play mostly in France, yeah. Yeah, you're sort of going around you're going through sewers, just sabotaging communications and trucks and things like that. Yeah, just making a general nuisance of yourself. Both games published by EA. Medal of Honor Underground, I've got in my notes here that it was, or my list of games, that it was developed by DICE Interactive, which I didn't realise.
I did not realise that either.
They came out in 1999 and 2000, respectively.
Cracking games, really important. Worthy. I wish I'd been able to play enough of them to even mention them in this, but I need to see if they still hold up in any way.
Yeah, I wonder if they do, because again, it would probably take a moment to get used to, because it certainly predates the dual analog sticks.
I've actually been playing a shooter recently on PlayStation that's going to come up in my honorable mentions. And to play that, it predates the DualShock, and you have to therefore you do all your movement on the D-pad, and it really hurts my thumb. Use that PlayStation D-pad for movement in
it must just be
game.
I think, because I've noticed I sometimes, if I have to write for any extended period of time now, I get a sore hand, and I never used to.
When I'm colouring in with Cassie, it fucking kills my hand.
Yeah, just must be because we never do it anymore. It's got to be.
Yeah. But yeah, it just feels so weird to move a first-person game with a D-pad, because I must be just crushing it so hard with my thumb.
Yeah.
And it's really annoying because it's one of those weird games where even though you're playing it on a PS2 with a PS2 controller, if you press that button to enable the DualShock or the analog stick, the whole control system shuts down on you. It's like, what?
Does it?
You can't move it all now. D-pad's not working anymore either, prick. Turn it off. Turn the sticks off, or you're not playing. So yeah, I was very confused the first time. Nothing was working. Oh, my controller's broken. And then no, turn it off, and now you're allowed to use the D-pad again. Here's a really quick shot for those watching the video to see what it is. Whoa! That was way too quick. Whoa!
Oh, I wonder if it's
blinded everybody there.
Was this an upcoming game?
It's an honourable mention. It doesn't quite make the.
I wonder if it's. I've got a game sitting here in front of me. I wonder if it's that.
I found an amazing honourable mention I'd completely forgotten about that I can't wait to talk about later on.
Oh, excellent!
Yeah, I love it so much, and I've forgotten all about it. So that was your 6, right?
That was my 6, yes.
Okay, my 6, I definitely don't own because I'm not a millionaire. It's Parasite Eve.
Oh, yes. I don't know why that didn't go on my list. It should have done.
Yeah, but you've got all these like heart picks from when you were a kid and stuff, so they probably deserve it more than one that we've recently discovered. I don't know. I don't have as much of a history with PlayStation to push this out for something that's had more of my life involvement, because you and I played this for a podcast. It's episode something. Go find it in the list, lads, who's listening, if you want to hear about it, because we had this is one of our best podcasts we've ever done. We had a right laugh talking about this game. It's a fucking survival horror JRPG with like turn-based fights and stuff. It is brilliant.
It is brilliant, mental. Like,
yeah, the story is fucking insane.
It's
animation in the cutscenes is terribly, like, hilariously terrible.
It's so insane that it's actually good, though, right? It's sort of fun, just getting lost in the madness of it. And the
madness of that writer who was like a scientist who was obsessed with like biological stuff and wrote a massive text on it.
Yeah, because he wrote you could sort of get a book roughly on it.
Isn't it?
Yeah. What a game! It just does so many interesting things.
Yeah. Which apparently the sequel largely dropped in favor of just being a tank controls Resi game.
Which is a shame.
Which is a shame. It might still be good, but that first one is so unique. There are so few games out there that are even close to that. Like, I think the Shadow Hearts series on the PS2 is a survival horror JRPG, but it's not like a gun one. I think it's more like a magical, like vampire historical style thing. Parasite Eve just has no equal in terms of its genre, and I hope like Crow Country Boys think about it a little bit. Did they not when we did that episode, did he not bring up the fact that he's a big fan of Parasite Eve and he'd like to maybe do something like that?
So that would be cool. Yeah,
someone just do it. Someone just copy it, just but with modern stuff, or just copy it and make it in PS1 graphics like Crow Country.
Is it Parasite Eve that has the ending that from hell? What is that game that we? Or is it? Yes.
Unfortunately, it is the one where you basically have to go through 3 boss fights. You cannot save, and if you try and save before the very final boss fight, you will die because you have to run away. And if it touches you, you die in one hit.
That's right.
So if you go to the save point, he will kill you while you're stood there. Fucking stupid. So you obviously survived that because you played on PC and had save states.
Yes.
But I actually played mine I played it on PS3. Because I had to log into I had to create an American account and log into the American PlayStation Store just to be able to get that. I also did the same for Parasite Eve 2, apparently, because they're both on my Vita now, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, if you're a casual new beginner to that game and you don't want to have to read a guide or kill yourself, just play it on PC. Just emulate it with save states for the love of God.
Yes. But yeah, it's a good game. Like you say, like it controls very well. It feels fairly modern, I think, in the way you're running about, because it's not tank controls. It is sort of analog.
Like the way those more modern Resi games have changed their controls up, like the remake of Resi 1. They've added those types of controls.
That's right.
Yeah,
the fighting mechanics are interesting. It does. Yeah, it's probably one of the most unique games I've ever played.
Yep. I'm so glad we played it. I'm so glad we both enjoyed it. Go listen to that episode on it, everybody. It's a good laugh.
It's a good one.
So that's what's your number 5?
It's maybe on your list, and this is another game I don't own because I'm also not a millionaire. Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
I thought you did own that, but I guess you don't.
Unfortunately not.
Higher on my list.
Okay, so we will whip back around
to my number 5, which again is another one I've only played recently. And when I was doing more than one entry per series, I thought to myself, like, I could quite easily have Dino Crisis, Resi 2, Resi 1, Resi 3 as my top 4.
Yeah.
I thought, no, let's not do that, because I feel like even though I'm not a massive, like, die-hard lover of this game, I'm really glad I played it for the first time with a friend who is one of those people, so he could experience me playing it for the first time and guide me through it, because it made it so much more enjoyable. And I do think it is a masterpiece, and that is Final Fantasy VII.
I've still never played it. It's one that's on my... I need to have experienced it at some point. See, if you were new, say if someone's like me, never played Final Fantasy VII before, would you just say go play the new one? Or is the old? No.
There's so much charm to the original that the new one dilutes too much with modern RPG bollocks, fetch quest horseshit. That I enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I immediately went out and bought Rebirth after I'd finished it because it is very good. The combat in the remake is unbelievably good, but there's so much charm in like the bad localization or the dodgy localization in Final Fantasy VII is so fun to enjoy. Like the stupid shit where you're like, dressing Cloud up as a woman to attract a mob boss, and then he gets like a bit molested. And the snowboarding mini games and all this kind of crazy shit. Like I was again very lucky that I had a friend who could help me, and he let me read his strategy guide, which is a really good strategy guide. That made it like, I don't know if I'd have stuck with it if I was just playing it by myself, because it's fucking long, and once the world opens up outside of Midgar, it'd be very easy to like completely lose all direction of where you're going and what you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never actually finished it because basically if you want to do the final Sephiroth fight, you have to grind a lot because he has like almost infinite health. Like it's like 9 billion health or some bollocks. So you need to get like the way that my friend describes it to me of what you need to be able to do to even like do damage to this guy is like crazy, and you've got to grind through some quite annoying bits. But the core sort of exploration, the different areas of the world, the characters, the combat in it is pretty standard old school JRPG stuff, but they did add this like active time battle system, and I say add that tentatively because maybe it was in previous games, but it kind of works in that. And this can be altered in the menu, but you can have it so that effectively the other enemies, it doesn't pause time when you're selecting what you're doing effectively. So you do have to kind of be on your shit and know exactly what you're going to be picking from your drop down menu. It's not like Chrono Trigger or whatever, where the enemies will not do anything while you're selecting your moves and you can take as long as you want. Like this one, they will. Everyone's got like a meter building up, which is like the ATB meter, and once that meter fills up, you then get to have your turn. So if the enemy's meter fills up while you're fucking around selecting what potion to use, then it will attack you again.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, because of you,
the soundtrack as well, just incredible, and like one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. I can see why people love it so much.
I've just bought it.
On what?
Steam. In the hope that it's going to work on my Steam Deck.
Way to play it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. You should be able to speed it up as well while you play it. So sometimes you can, at least I've played it on my PS4. There's like a way to make it go like 3 times speed, so that you can just skip through the grindy shit later on in the game if you don't want to have to sit and watch like the same battles over and over and over again. So yeah, get a guide for it and just enjoy the nonsense, because there's a lot of nonsense in it.
Okay.
That you won't expect. You'll probably go into it thinking it's like a really serious, gritty, old school RPG, and it is at times, because there's a lot of stuff to do with environmental catastrophes and people, main characters dying and stuff like that. So it's pretty grim at times, but most of the time it's just really funny shit going on that's probably not even intentional. But yeah, really, really good. So that's my number 5.
Which means I'm on number 4, right?
Yep.
I wonder if this is on your list. I've got Resident Evil 3 next up.
Well, that's the one that I took out because you said 1 per series, and I am surprised to see that's the one that you went for.
Yeah, I thought I actually originally had Resident Evil 2 on there. But for some reason I just opted for again, like depending on the day, I could opt for Resident Evil 2 or 3, depending on what mood I'm in. I think the reason I decided to go for 3 is I just have fond memories of how sort of action orientated it went in comparison to the previous Resident Evil games that we had played. And it was sort of unexpectedly unexpectedly fun is not the right word, but it was just like, yeah, it took it in an unexpected direction, and I found that it still worked. Whereas obviously the Resident Evil 1 and 2 are much more plodding focused games, whereas this one's there's a lot more action involved, and yeah, it was a nice surprise to find that it still works as a concept and still feels like a Resident Evil game, and just sort of lets you go nuts with it, if that makes sense. Just sort of takes it as just like, yeah, we know this is what we've been in the past, but we're just going to go wild here. Mr. X, or whatever he's called in this version of the game, the Nemesis.
Yeah,
that I like the way that he interacts with you in the game. I like the sort of choose your own adventure style aspects of the game that it has, and how, yeah, I said it is. And I just like, for as much of a derp as he sounds, there are points in that game where he is genuinely terrifying and will take an absolute pounding.
Yeah.
And it's just they take the sort of action, you know, saying like they sort of turned it on its head and sort of still managed to create fear with this presence that is seemingly hunting you around. And yeah, I just think it's quite a smart game for what it is.
Yeah, it can be dismissed, I think, or at least in the past it was dismissed for being too short, too actiony, like not a proper, and it wasn't supposed to be a proper Resident Evil game until they kind of forced them to get it done as quickly as. But when you think about the fact that they introduced Nemesis, who's become not a mainstay character because he's not really reappeared in anything since other than dumb spin-off shit, but he's such an iconic figure in the Resident Evil lore. And then you add in like the fact that you've got like that, what do they call it? Like it's like a consequence system.
Yeah,
I can't remember what they call it now, but like the thing where you've got to make the choice of what you want to do whenever Nemesis shows up. And it's like a sort of split second decision. I just think that adds like replayability to it, and it's just such a unique, cool idea that bizarrely the remake dropped from it. And I think maybe this game sort of shines brighter than it probably did previously because of the fact that the remake of it was so disappointing compared to how the remake of 2 probably
really was. Yeah.
Enhanced the experience of playing that game. The remake of 3 really detracted from the essence of what made the original so good, and as a result, like the decision of do I prefer Resident Evil 2 original or remake is a harder one to make than do I prefer the original 3 or remake.
Yes, that's a good point.
All day long. I love Resident Evil 3. That's the one I dropped when we said 1 per series. That would have been in my list as well, but alas, again, we have a whole podcast on that from last year.
We have lots of Resident Evil podcasts for you to go and check out if that is your jam.
So it's my number 4 now.
It's your number 4, yes.
Which probably is higher on your list. My number 4 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
It's my number 3, so it's time to go.
Oh,
since we're doing it, let's get these.
I don't have that one. You've got 1 and 2. Nice. I think I've got 2 on the Dreamcast, maybe. I've got 1 and 3 on the PlayStation.
Which I know is blasphemous because we're doing a PlayStation podcast, but that's the best version, right? The old Dreamcast version of Tony Hawk.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Well, it certainly looks the nicest and plays very smoothly. I mean, we haven't done a podcast on Tony Hawk's, but we talk about it a lot in like things like this and how important it was to our musical tastes, our dress sense, our lifestyles, as well as just being a fucking timeless, brilliant video game.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably if this was the top 10 most important games in David's life, this is a game that probably would be on there. Like you're saying, like it solidified a passion for video games. It opened me up to a whole new genre of music, the genre of music that I'd listened to pretty much from then on. It was a whole counterculture that I was very much interested in. It just encapsulates the attitudes and sounds and feeling of my childhood, and it's just such an amazingly important game that is just fun. It's incredibly arcadey I guess thinking back, like two
Yeah,
minute runs, and then you're in and out. But yeah, the amount of time and I guess that's probably what makes it such an engaging game, though. I guess a game like that, in the sort of themes of it, it has to be snappy, doesn't it? And you could sort of restart levels in seconds. There wasn't really much loading times after you got into the level itself. Yeah, it's fun. And Pro Skater 2 was a definitively better version of
in every sense.
So I guess that's the one, if you were doing the list, that would make it onto the list.
Yeah, I think back on the arcadey feel to it, I think I saw it in the documentary that's on.
I think I have that.
Is it on? I think it's on Amazon, maybe.
Yeah, I think I bought it on Amazon.
Yeah, it's Pretending I'm a Superman.
That's it.
I think he talks about the fact that, like, somebody, it's either him or like Rodney Mullen or somebody, talks about the fact that skating is really hard to learn, and if you were to, I mean, skate has obviously had its success by trying to replicate that, but that was after this came out as a kind of an attempt to make something different to it and get carve its own niche in that subgenre. The idea of it was to be like, look, we cannot make learning this video game be as hard as it is to learn actual skateboarding, because it takes years and it's not fun to fail over and over again. And apparently earlier, like, demos and stuff were a lot harder, and like your board would break and stuff like that. And so, like, you would get like injuries, and then you'd end up like slowing down or not being able to do as many tricks. And they took all of that out because they just said, like, we want to make skateboarding itself appealing to people, because it was just getting towards its peak of popularity. Like, Tony Hawk landed the 900 like a few months before the first game came out, and he says if he hadn't landed that trick at the X Games that year, like, he doesn't think the game would have taken off the way it did, because he suddenly became a celebrity that transcended the sport. And yeah, that idea of like, we need to make this accessible to people who are wanting to get into skating, and maybe it will push them on to enjoy the sport itself, like, was so spot on and so not profound, but you know what I mean? Like it's like the perfect choice to take the game in that direction, because that's what happened. Like, it turned me and my mates into skaters, or at least
it literally did for me. Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, like I say, like I used to skate when I was younger. I don't think I skate without Tony Hawk, the games.
No, absolutely not.
Like I say, like, my music taste's probably completely different. I wonder, like, how I would look and sort of be as a person without these games, just because of how much they sort of carved out my childhood. And try to think of other things, like the downhill jam is apparently Tony Hawk's favorite level, which I think is a controversial opinion, personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that might largely be based on the fact that the game was kind of inspired by one called Top Skater, which is a Sega arcade skating game. And that is effectively like, you just go downhill and you do tricks along the way. It feels a lot more like something like 1080, where you're just heading down and doing tricks on the way.
So that fits with, I know Downhill Jam's the first level that they made in sort of when they were testing it out. So that would have been with
because didn't they then put something at the bottom? Like, didn't they put like they put the warehouse at the bottom of Downhill Jam, I think, in a demo. That's the game.
Did they?
That's the I think I've just revealed that I was taking my socks off for comfort there. That's the game, and I may have brought it up on the Hall of Fame podcast. That is the game that was on a demo disc that apparently like went mental, and it had a Final Fantasy 7 on there as well, 7 or 8, and they could not believe that like everyone was talking about this Tony Hawk's skateboarding game instead of the Final Fantasy demo. So yes, and that apparently was like effectively Downhill Jam, but when you got to the end of it, you got to the warehouse, and they were finding that so many people wanted to just stay in the warehouse than do the run down the hill again. They were like, oh, okay, right, Top Skater is fine, but we need to think about this more, not just copy that. Definitely check that documentary out if you haven't already. If you've bought it, maybe you have, but
I think I actually think I was trying to think what we did recently that Tony Hawk came up in, because I watched it I've watched it this year in ahead of a podcast, but I don't remember which podcast or what we were doing.
I can't remember either.
Did we do a Tony Hawk podcast?
No, we were planning on it. We may not have time this year to do our retrospective of it. We were planning to do it next month, but
I wonder.
I haven't done one.
Yes. Anyway, excellent game. Incredibly important game.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So that was what? Your number 3?
That's my number 3.
This one I'm pretty certain is going to... It might be your number 1. I don't know. Because you've done Resident Evil, you've done Tony Hawk's, and they're not number 1. So my number 3 is Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, it's higher in my list.
Okay, down it goes. What's your number 2?
Dino Crisis.
Oh shit! Is it?
Yeah.
We should have postponed my Dino Crisis talk for when I did it for my number 7. Okay.
Wait, have we had a Dino Crisis talk?
Yeah, it was my number 7.
Oh, I totally didn't even notice that I had it on. Did we?
Did we actually talk about it? Or
Maybe you brought it up and I said it's higher in my list, and then we moved on. I don't know.
Oh yeah, we probably maybe we did actually. Yeah, no, because I think I went and got the disc, and then we probably just started talking about all of our discs.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Yeah,
whip mine back out. There it is.
There it goes.
Yes, let's talk about it.
This sort of is a game that I've come. This is not a game I've got any sort of nostalgia for. This is one that I've come to as a result of a Winner's U. We played it during our summer of Resi, didn't we? As a sort of Resident Evil game.
One.
Yeah, stand-in. And it truly is that. It's a Resident Evil game with dinosaurs. And it's got the humor, it's got the mechanics.
Whether intended or not.
Yeah. It's just an excellent game, and I don't know why this game is not much more famous than it is.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not mentioned outside of the fandom for a remake or remaster, because we need it.
It's a bafflingly sort of anonymous game in my mind, because it's just excellent. It is just a truly excellent game.
Yeah, again, we've got a podcast for it, as David's just said. Go check that out, because again, we had a right laugh talking about this game, because there's like some of the characters in it, like the Doctor in it, and that goofy guy who keeps fucking everything up. I can't remember his name on your team, but yeah, just
the T-Rex is a son of a bitch.
The T-Rex, yeah, when he busts through that window, that was them trying to like ape the old scare from the jump scares from Resis of yore. I remember when I initially played the sequel to this, I didn't like it because I felt like it was, they went this action route, and it felt like it got better reception. Like a lot of people seem to go back and say, no, the second one's the better game because it has its own kind of style to it. It's not just Resident Evil with dinosaurs, but Resident Evil with dinosaurs is exactly what I want.
Yes.
I do now love the second one, having given it a proper go. They are both brilliant, but Resident Evil with dinosaurs is so much better than that basic description makes it sound, unless it makes it sound awesome, because it's awesome if you think that.
Yeah, it's funny how they carry on.
Oh, there you go.
I was just going to sort of touch on the second one again. It's strange to me that they sort of wholesale abandoned it and just basically created a completely different game.
Well, yeah, and the third one's even worse. Like it's not related. It feels unrelated to the first two, and they killed it with that. So they really need to listen to the fact that people want this back. I really hope they give it some more love, because Exo Primal's not the one.
No, it's not.
Fun for a bit, but it is not the one.
Yes.
But the reason I even care about Dino Crisis in the first place, like there's a strong chance that had stupid fate not aligned itself, I probably would never even given this game the time of day. I don't know if that's entirely true, but I played this game because how many years ago are we talking now? Maybe 10 years ago at this point. A friend of mine and I were really... He had like a projector screen in his games room.
Yes.
And after I came back from uni and started working back here, we sort of rekindled our friendship, because I didn't really speak to him that much when I was in Scotland for 5 years. And we sort of decided together to get back into wrestling together. And I bought on eBay, like some guy had effectively, I don't know where he'd got it from, but he'd ripped every single episode of WWF Monday Night Raw onto CD or DVDs.
Oh, brilliant.
So I bought all of those. I bought like this whole set, and it must have cost me like 50 quid for like DVRs of all the episodes of Raw from the year 1999.
You had the WWE network before it was even a thing.
Exactly. When that network came out, I just looked at all these fucking DVDs like, oh, god damn it. Because I went and bought SmackDown after that as well, and we were going through like every time we hung out, it was like basically almost once a week. I'd go over there, we'd watch another episode of Raw, then the next week we'd watch SmackDown, then we'd eventually oh, it's a pay-per-view coming up.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Really excited. And I distinctly remember the time when we were sat there watching just a random episode, and it was like The Godfather versus Midian, and it was like a terrible, like trudging, boring, slow hoss fight between two terrible wrestlers. And I said to my friend, like, how many people do you think are sat here, like in the world right now, do you think are sat watching The Godfather versus Midian of their own choice? And his response was, statistically, far more people in the world are doing heroin right now, so I think we're all right. That will stick with me forever. But because they were ripped onto DVD from, I assume, VHS recordings from the television, mostly in America, they had adverts from the time.
Oh, great.
And I saw an advert on one of the 99 episodes of Raw for Dino Crisis and thought, oh shit, yeah, there's that dinosaur Resident Evil. Why have I never played that? And it was because I saw that on a DVD-R of Monday Night Raw from 1999, an advert for it. I decided to play Dino Crisis for the first time. And then now here we are.
You've made me want. I actually, we need to see if this is a thing that can still be bought, because I want that now. I want some DVDs of the, because
I might still have them.
They're shutting down the WWE network, aren't they, in the UK?
I didn't realize that, because it's one of the there's only a few countries that are keeping it, because of the Netflix deal, right? Is it all just?
Oh, maybe it's all going to go there, so maybe I will have access to it. I don't know.
Do Netflix have the space to fill with every old wrestling TV show? I can't believe they're getting rid of that. It's so shit.
Yeah, it's a cool resource.
Every now and then I sort of resubscribe to it and go, right, I'm going to watch WCW from 1997.
Yeah, or maybe, right, we need to find, because I might actually just like pick an era and just like watch like I might pick a WCW, but say if I picked a WWE year, I could just like watch a post WrestleMania to WrestleMania. That would be fun.
Yeah. I did that I used to do it while I was working. I did it over the pandemic. I used to watch it like while I was working every day. It was really it was just great.
Yeah.
But I think I started in the wrong place, first of all, because I tried to start at like the beginning of the Attitude Era. And then you're started by watching like Bret Hart versus the Patriot. I can't remember who the Patriot is, but he's just some shit wrestler in American gear. And, it was a US versus Canada. And I was like, I need to skip to when Stone Cold's good, because this is shit. But anyway, yes, that's a long way round of saying that's why I played Dino Crisis for the first time.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a really cool game. Like you said, we've got a whole podcast on it.
Number 2. Yeah. Very pleased with it being so high on your list. Very pleased. My number 2, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, excellent.
Take it away.
We've made it.
Put that was a bit lower.
That was my number 5.
Yeah.
The top 5 of my list, I realized when I was writing it, is stacked. Like it's wild, some of these games.
I struggled to order these.
Mm-hmm. This is another one that on a different day could be higher up on my list. It's just sort of where it ended up plopping today. It is probably one of the most wonderful games I've ever played. It is a game that is probably near perfect. It didn't get its it didn't get its due, did it, when it was initially released, because it sort of came along. People wanted 3D, and it's a 2D game. So I did sort of crack a smile to myself, thinking that one of the best games on the console that was a 3D console is essentially just a 2D back and forth game. This is a game that has a lot of ideas and essentially delivers on nearly them all.
Agreed.
The depth you can get into with messing about with your powers and things like that is ridiculous. It's beautiful to look at. It's fun to play. It is smartly designed, and I think I'm trying to sort of dodge around it, but there's probably no getting away from the flipping the castle moment. Right, is
No,
one
there
of the
isn't.
most like oh my god moments in video games when you realize this castle that you've sort of come to memorize the layout of
Yeah,
has the whole time been designed in a way that they could just flip it upside down to give you a whole new area, and it works, and you suddenly realize what they've done. It's just great. It's such a good game.
it is. Top 10 of all time for me, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I
think
think
it's
so.
a fucking masterpiece. We have a podcast on it.
Yeah, another one.
We deal with a lot of these.
Medusa heads can get fucked, but everything.
Oh, straight in the bin with them. Straight in the bin. Oh, it's just. I love the fact that I loved this game. Like having I can't even remember when I first played it. I think I played it first when it came out on the 360. They sort of remastered it. Well, no, they probably just ported it. And talking to you about it and how much I loved it. Sorry for your
I think you bought me this, did you not? I wonder if you can see it. My Symphony of the Night.
I did buy you that. Yes, I did. I forgot about that. I thought for a minute you were about to say I bought you the game. I was like, what a fool! How much did I pay for that? Yeah, I remember playing it on 360 and telling you like this game's fucking sick, man. And you said that you'd never played it, but you'd watched like speedruns of it loads because you were really into the fact that people just go backwards the whole way through the entire run. But that is that you got to do the backwards dash all the way. They're a weird speedrun to watch. Like, what a skill to have to learn to just dash backwards for the entire game. But it's a great speedrun. Like, it's skill based as well.
Yeah.
Like, there's no fucking like jumping through walls and glitch shit. It's just skill based awesomeness. Endless replayability. Like, I could play this game again right now and I'd have a fantastic time. Is it? Oh, I feel like I need this on Switch. Is it on Switch?
Oh, I feel like it's in a lot of places now. Let's have a look, see what it's on.
Yeah, it should be. If it's not on Switch and I don't have it, I need to see what's going on because what a perfect handheld game.
No, maybe not. So on PlayStation, PSP, Android, Sega Saturn, PS4, PS3, 360, and iOS, allegedly.
Is it? Because I know they brought out a collection. Is it on that?
Oh, it could be on that, I guess.
How
much is this on Steam? Is it on PC? Oh, it might not be on. Let's have a look on Steam. It's not on the Wikipedia list.
Castlevania Anniversary Collection. I don't think it's on that. Yeah, it's not on that.
What's the V Rising Legacy of Castlevania Premium Pack?
Not a clue.
Oh, it's... Oh, what the fuck is this? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's not on Switch. How is that a thing? How is that the case when almost every single other game is on there?
It's not on Steam
all the
either.
GTA games, all the SNES ones, all the NES ones, all the DS ones are even on there, and they don't have Symphony of the Night.
They're arguably the best one. Yeah, it's not on... I don't think it's on Steam either.
Is it not?
No. Unless it's in is it in any collection? So we've got the Domus collection.
Do you have that yet?
No.
Okay, yeah, that's the next best thing to it in handheld form.
Domus collection.
What?
There's advanced collection. They've got an anniversary collection.
Yeah, it's not on that. I can't believe it's not on that.
There's a lot of like
4.
Castlevania
iOS.
tie-ins as well.
Oh, why did I click on PlayStation 4? Re-releases. Oh my god, Castlevania Puzzle Encore of the Night. I remember that. On iOS. I used to like that.
Castlevania Puzzle.
Super. It's basically Super Puzzle Fighter, but with Castlevania
brilliant.
skin.
I think I briefly played. There's a Street Fighter game like that, I think, that I played.
Oh, yeah. So I've got it I've got that PS4 version of Symphony of the Night because I'm pretty sure that's what I played when we did the podcast because it came with Rondo of Blood.
Yes.
It's Castlevania Requiem. That's what it's called. It's on that one on PS4. But yeah, it's not on Switch. That is madness.
Yeah, that's wild.
Fucking madness. Yeah, yeah. There's not much more to say about it. It's just a masterpiece, and Igarashi is a genius. That'll do. And he wears nice cowboy hats.
He does.
What's your number one, bro? I think I know what it is.
Metal Gear.
Another masterpiece.
Solid.
Metal Gear. Have you got to the point where he says Metal Gear in Metal Gear 3 yet?
Don't think so. No.
He was going to say it in that way.
I was
contractually obligated.
Playing through Metal Gear Solid 3. I don't know, whatever they call it. It's like I think it's a Metal Gear thing. It's like a nuclear tank. And they're like,
or Shagahod.
Yeah, Shagahod. That's the one I was trying to think. I knew it's a ridiculous name, but yeah. It's like what? Yeah. It's like perched on a mountain. It's like, oh my god, it can launch a missile from that terrain. I'm just sitting thinking, like,
I fucking love that. It's just like his legs like hanging over the mountain, like
Like, why do we care? Like, you can launch a missile from anywhere, especially in like the nuclear weapon days. You can basically just do what you want with them, right?
Yeah,
stick them in Cuba, whatever you fancy.
Yeah, I mean, most people launch. Most people launch nukes from planes.
Yeah, I don't see
which go very fast over large distances, and yet this guy's got it in a tank, which is a lot slower and easier to look at and see coming slowly. And he's like, "Oh shit, that's even worse."
And they're all losing their shit over this tank. I'm just like, well, just let them have it. Like, it's kind of pointless. So don't worry about it. With the lalu shit.
Yeah, who are the Patriots? Yeah. But anyway, what a fucking Metal Gear Solid, man.
This is another one that, again, because of the podcast, it's sort of made me re-fall in love with the series. And I think I've said this on one of our previous either Metal Gear Solid 1 or 2 or both podcasts. I think at some point in my brain, just sort of adopted the idea that Metal Gear Solid was a bit sort of silly and up its own ass, which it kind of is, but it's in the best way possible. And it's actually... I hate to say this, but it's actually quite smart. Quite a smart game, isn't it? There's a lot going on. There's a lot of layers, and the way it ties itself together is, for the most part, so far, really satisfying. And this is, again, we were talking about the games industry getting older. This is a game that was shooting for things that other games just didn't do in that era. Kojima is a true auteur, and we really saw that for the first time with Metal Gear Solid. And it's just such an impressive game for its time. We spoke about in the previous Metal Gear Solid podcast, like the attention to detail. You'll be like crawling under a bed and there'll be a toilet that's sitting beside it with maggots crawling under. It's just like, it is so intricately designed from every angle, whether that's the story, whether that's the level design, whether that's the mental characters that they've got. Like, it's just... It is an excellent game, and I actually trying to think. It's a game that like had other companies sort of scrambling to copy. So we had like Splinter Cell probably doesn't exist if Metal Gear Solid doesn't exist, and I think it's always quite impressive when you bring out a game that sort of redefines a genre so much that you start seeing clones. Like the obvious example of that is like the amount of crafting games things that we've had since Minecraft, or the amount of the battle royale genre since Fortnite and PUBG. And like this sort of did that on a smaller scale, but it was a smaller industry at that time. Like Microsoft are obviously like, we need to have a stealth game on our console, which is I guess where Splinter Cell came along, and it's an excellent game.
Yeah, and it's such a pivotal moment in gaming where like the presentation of games, as you say, like really grew up and became this Hollywood aping thing where it suddenly they could become these like cinematic experiences with proper voice actors and a proper script, and as you said, like layers to it and twists and turns and sort of profound symbolism and double meanings behind things, and commentaries on politics and shit like that. And it's I mean, we don't want to suck off Kojima too much on this pod or any pod, although we have to sort of begrudgingly admit that the man is clearly a very intelligent man. Yeah, but just I think that primarily is why this game is so important. It's just that the quality of what it offers in terms of how it delivers its story to you is still really impressive today, and nothing else around that time was coming close to that, I think.
No, absolutely.
Even Final Fantasy VII's a lot. It's all like text. There's no voice acting in Final Fantasy VII. There's nothing but voice acting in this.
Yeah, it was a massively cinematic game in a way that we hadn't really seen before then. And it's just brave. Like, it's brave in some of the things it does in terms of like with the putting the code on the back of the game box and things like that. It just
like the 4-4 breaking stuff. Yeah,
I feel like it's like what Peter Molyneux always kind of wanted to be in his head, but never quite managed. But it's like I don't know, Kojima's just not worried about taking risks and throwing things at the wall to see if they fit. And
he's not at all. Yeah. He doesn't filter himself in what he wants to make, does he? He just does it.
No, and it's entertaining and
somehow,
funny.
Most of the time it works, yeah.
Somehow managed to just sort of like end up liking Otacon against my better judgment. Sniper Wolf. And do like, even like having to get like dogs, getting the dogs to pee on your box and stuff like that. It's just it's ridiculous, but in the best possible way.
Stuff that you don't know how. Yeah, you just can't fathom how people come up with that kind of stuff. Like changing the controller ports and it's fucking amazing. Psycho Mantis, everything. There's so many iconic things about that game, and I'm just so glad we played the original this year, maybe last year. I can't remember now.
So we played 2. Well, this will be our 3rd Metal Gear Solid game in like 14 months. So I think we must have played it just over a year ago.
Yeah. But, I mean, it really, really holds up.
Yeah.
It should not be missed by anybody who's never played it. I don't know why you wouldn't have.
No, you have to. First game I ever played that had multiple discs. I think.
Interesting. Very nice.
Final Fantasy may be your one. That's got multiple discs, doesn't it?
It was, but it was probably something on GameCube.
Yeah.
Because I think I went back and got a lot of these later in life. Thinking about it. Oh, I know it'll be a Dreamcast. It'll be a Dreamcast game. Probably Shenmue.
That'll be it. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think you know what my number 1 is, right?
What is it? Well, my brain's gone blank.
It's
Resident Evil 2, there we go.
Resident Evil 2.
I don't own a Resident Evil game on PS1. They're not.
There's still time.
Yeah, still plenty of time.
We've talked about Resident Evil 3 earlier as well. Resident Evil 2, we've got a whole, again, podcast for it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's obviously my favorite of the originals. It's probably my favorite Resident Evil game, I think, still. It's just the police station playing as
It's
Leon.
incredible.
Like the improvements made. I mean, Resident Evil would be in my honorable mentions for this because obviously it's an incredibly important type of game. And, we're talking about the cinematic portrayal of game or the cinematic identities that games were taking on at that point. Like Resident Evil was trying to do that, but came off a lot more hokey and schlocky than Metal Gear Solid when it genuinely looked like a really serious attempt at making something like that. Although Resident Evil was a serious attempt, it didn't land the same way. Resident Evil 2, I think, neatened up that, the acting this time around was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
The characters were better fleshed out. And then I just love the police station so much. The liquors, the stupid keys, the garage, the dogs, the spiders. Just what is there not to love about Resident Evil 2? It's just fucking incredible. I will love it forever.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
We were talking, was it our previous podcast? We were talking about Ubisoft trying to force things to be iconic. But I think like the police station is a truly iconic video game setting.
Yeah, I agree. Just the music when you walk in for that first time, you see old Marvin and he locks all the doors on you and stuff. And you've already started in the streets, and it's just like the scale of it has just gone tenfold from being in a dusty old house in the first game. Now you're in the streets everywhere, and there's fire and dogs and zombies, and you go into a gun shop and he's getting mauled by loads of them at once, and just the improvement in the graphics as well. Like I think we said before, the zombies in the first game were just like grey blokes, whereas in this one they actually look like disgusting, rotten bastards. That first run through the streets, I absolutely love it, and then you get to the station and that music hits. It's just fucking magic.
Oh, it's fantastic. It does such a good job, obviously, with limited resources, of just creating a city that is just sort of lost all civility to it, and it's just in utter chaos. And it does that so well. And I think it's probably worth pointing out, just because of like the PlayStation graphics at the time, and when developers were able to sort of still recreate the sense of things falling apart around you in such an effective way. I think it's probably worth of note.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
We've made it.
Should we rerun through our top 10?
Yeah. Will I go first?
Yeah, and we'll just take it in turns.
Okay, so my number 10 is Colin McRae Rally 2.
Mine is Time Crisis.
Number 9, I've got Time Crisis.
I have WWF SmackDown 2, Know Your Role.
Number 8, Croc, The Legend of the Gobos.
Ridge Racer Type 4.
Number 7, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey.
Dino Crisis.
Number 6, Medal of Honor.
Parasite Eve.
Number 5, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Final Fantasy 7.
Number 4, Resident Evil 3.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Number 3, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid.
Number 2, Dino Crisis.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
And my number 1, Metal Gear Solid.
And Resident Evil 2 for me.
What a list.
What a list. What a console, man. Just so many incredible things we've just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a few more less incredible, but still worth mentioning, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the shooter that I was flashing on the screen.
It was the one I thought it was going to be.
Oh, you've got a non-platinum one.
I do, but it's got a crack in the box.
Oh, I mean, which PlayStation game doesn't
these days?
Fucking animals. I could not find anyone selling that.
I don't know where I got that.
This some vintage credit I got from selling some shirts.
Excellent.
I think this game is really fucking cool.
It's really good.
It's bloody hard though.
I don't think any sane person would complete it. I watched that.
Got to stick that cheat code in. I got pink boots on or whatever.
Is that? Yeah, that's it.
Everything. Yeah. Invincibility.
What's his face? The Australian guy that I always mention.
I watched his video about it. Actually.
It was great, but it gets ridiculous, doesn't it?
G-Man lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one who talked about the cheat, actually, didn't he? He said, if you haven't got that on, you're going to eat shit.
Yes, true. Tekken 3 is probably worth a mention.
I was just about to say, we'd be remiss if we don't mention how good Tekken 3 is.
Yeah.
That was close to being in my list as well.
Yeah, it was sort of in my, it would have probably been in the top 15 if we had a top 15 list. I don't have a Tekken game, I don't think. Having a look through here.
I don't either. I do. Do I?
Is Battle Arena Toshinden 3 a fighting game? I've got that.
I think so, yeah.
So we can have a look at that on the old podcast. It looks like a fighting game. This is not one I've played. Survivors of the previous Toshinden tournament stand against a new enemy, one with a hunger for destruction and for blood.
So, I don't have a Tekken game on the original PlayStation, but I have Tekken 5.
Oh, excellent.
2,
yes.
Which, I don't know if anybody at home can read this, but you actually get Tekken 1, Tekken 2, and Tekken 3 on this.
Oh, brilliant.
As well. So I actually first played Tekken 3 on that version there, and preferred it to Tekken 5.
No.
It's brilliant. Really, really solid fighter.
I've still never made it to play Chase Express, which I really want to play.
Oh yeah,
Resident Evil on a train.
A helicopter chasing a train.
Yeah, good old Resi on a train.
I mentioned it earlier, but of course, the Point Blank games, of which I now have all 3,
they were classic. For me, that was an arcade game more than a PlayStation game, but it's an absolute classic.
My cousin had it on his PlayStation, I remember back in the day. He's the one who first showed me Resident Evil 2, actually, as well. I think it was the same year I got my N64, so like 97.
Yes.
And he, oh no, it would have been the year after because it came out in '98. So he would have showed me that he got Resident Evil 2, and then I remember him being like, "I don't know if I should actually be showing you this. You're a bit too young." I was like, no, it's cool, man.
We cannot talk about PlayStation without talking about apparently the most iconic video game character of all time, according to IGN. So I have 4 Tomb Raider games sitting here with me. We've got Tomb Raider 2, Tomb Raider The Last Revelation, Tomb Raider 3, and Tomb Raider Chronicles.
Oh, hold on a minute. I don't know what order they come out in.
I have Tomb Raider, but it arrived without a box, so it sits in a drawer and I pretend I don't own it.
What order did they come out in?
Let me have a look. So Tomb Raider 2 came out in 97. Then Tomb Raider 3 came out in 98. Tomb Raider The Last Revelation came out in 99. And Tomb Raider Chronicles came out in 2000. All developed by Core Design and published by Eidos.
I think if you'd have asked me to name the Tomb Raider titles before this moment, I would never, ever have got those last 2 that you just said.
What, Last Revelation and Chronicles?
Don't think I've even ever... I probably have never even heard of The Last Revelation.
So I had The Last Revelation when I had a PS1 back in the day.
It wasn't like a simultaneous on the PS2 kind of thing. No, it probably wasn't, was it? I've genuinely no idea what that game is. I mean, it's obviously going to be a Tomb Raider game, right? It's not a spin-off or anything.
No, all proper Tomb Raider games, yeah. Quite dramatically different modelling as well of the sprites, which is quite interesting. But yes, if you look at the back of the box, Lara Croft is wearing increasingly ridiculous clothing. She looks like she's dressed like Catwoman in one of these pictures. Skin tight leather outfit.
Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. It's the 4th installment in the Tomb Raider series. Came out in '99, and that was on the Dreamcast as well, apparently.
Tomb Raider Chronicles and Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation have a 10 out of 10 from PlayStation Magazine.
The Dreamcast version of that game is apparently dog shit.
Oh.
It has a 3 out of 10 from IGN, but then again, so does God Hand, and that's a masterpiece. But also in Electronic Gaming Monthly, it got a 3 out of 10 as well, and it's got 62% Metacritic.
Must not have been.
Hate it so much.
I mean, it's 4 games in 4 years. I can't imagine much changes about them.
Yeah, but that seems to be the general consensus. It's just dated.
Tomb Raider 2 is the famous one, and that's probably largely because of the mansion that you can. It's like the training area that you can go and lock the butler in the fridge and stuff like that. Have you got any other honourable mentions? I've got a few.
Yeah,
Silent Hill.
I'd be remiss to not mention the original Silent Hill, a game that I have never finished because I tried to play it with my Resident Evil loving friend Chris, who, despite having played this game himself, he claimed, did not want to help me play it anymore because he felt too uneasy and he didn't like it. And he said, I don't like it. Let's turn it off and play Mario Kart. I don't want to play this anymore. And he wasn't even fucking playing it. He was just watching me do it. So I need to play and finish this at some point in my life just to see if it comes anywhere close to the second one. Probably not, but I know a lot of people still think this is a very, very good game.
If you'd asked me...
one more.
Oh, I've got a few. Let's go. If you'd asked me in like 96, 97 what one of my favourite games were, it certainly would have been this series. Cool Borders. Cool Borders 2.
Cool Borders, yeah.
Cool Borders 3 and Cool Borders 4.
For life.
I don't think they would hold up very well today. I think they're probably not very good, but back in the day I thought they were great. Back when I was younger. I think they're just they're just racing games. Are they right that you can also do tricks in?
Yeah, I think you'd probably have to go quite a long way to find a snowboarding game that does hold up in a fun way. SSX, I suppose.
SSX, yeah. I wonder how 1080 is.
Not good, I would
Sean
imagine.
White snowboarding's another
You've got
one.
it on Switch.
Ah, yes.
What's the other one?
Sean White snowboarding came out on Xbox 360.
Amped?
Amped, yes, another good one.
Yeah.
And well, I guess we could. Is it Downhill? Something, that Ubisoft game? Steep.
Steep. Yeah. steep. That's so
Steep.
shit. Oh god.
I'll do another one then before you go to your last one. Well, actually, I've got a couple here.
Well, actually, before you start whipping yours out, obviously, I think I've mentioned already, like Resident Evil 1,
yes,
Dino Crisis 2,
yes,
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1. They were all amongst my honourable mentions, but we've kind of talked about them when we talked about the other games of them. But yeah, everybody knows they're great. Go on.
One of my favourite football games, FIFA 99. Has to be mentioned.
FIFA 99. That's the one that has indoor football, which is effectively prison rules football because you could not get booked or give away a foul.
Yes, it's also got a dive button, which I wish they would bring back.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if I ever managed to make it work.
2001 was the one with the scratch and sniff.
Oh, disc. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Old skulls on the front. Smells like grass, apparently, which doesn't really have a scent.
Driver.
Hardest tutorial of all time.
Ridiculous. Yes. Driver 2 is probably the better game. I guess we have mentioned them already, Gran Turismo 1 and Gran Turismo 2.
I was wondering if you were going to, because a friend of mine, my friend Chris again, the Silent Hill wiener, he loved that game and he showed me it and I was like, dude, what is this? It's fucking boring. Like, when do I get to throw red shells? So I've never really got involved in any sim racing, really, other than maybe Formula One, if that counts. So I've never really played Gran Turismo in any form.
And the one that I played most of was probably 3. Well, it would be A spec as well.
Gran Turismo PS2?
3. Yeah, that was a PS2 one.
Yeah.
Then it had Ash, I think, was the theme music. Can you remember that band?
Oh, right. I thought you meant you said Ash. I thought the guy from Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yes, the band Ash. Yeah. Had Ash Ketchum in it.
I've got a bunch more games here, but they're probably not worth mentioning. Theme Hospital is a David game, and Wipeout. We have to mention that as well, I suppose.
Yeah, poor man's F-Zero. So the game I was really excited to mention that I saw when I went over to pick up my games and bring them over, that I had a friend at school who lived like kind of out in the sticks a little bit, and as a result, he was sort of like a wild child who just like, they would do stuff like go run into farmlands and have the farmers chase them away while they were playing frisbee in there, and they'd have like dirt bikes and shit like this, and they were just like these like rambunctious kind of like hicks. But I still went over to his house quite a lot because of that kind of shit. He's got like a BB gun and all that kind of stuff, and his mum lets him shoot it in his garden. And he's the one who made me want a Dreamcast, actually, because I remember he got a Dreamcast like before anybody else, and he showed me like Sonic Adventure. I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna cry until my parents buy me one of these. But anyway, went over to his house one time and he had loads of his mates come over, and we had basically like an on-running tournament of my favorite puzzle game of all time,
Bust a Move. Yes,
Bust a Move 2 Arcade Edition.
I thought you were showing me Bubble Bobble.
Yeah, this is Puzzle Bobble, isn't it? I think it's what it's initially called. Yeah. Again, Chris and I have an ongoing war on this game that we still engage in every now and again, and he is sick at this. I cannot beat the bastard. Like, every time he'd come around, I'd get a few wins in, but he would always end up like overall, he'd end up with like 65 to 29 or something in wins. And there was always a classic line of like, you'd have to say, oh, if I make this shot, we're all getting laid. And you'd have to watch what the guy would do. It'd be like bouncing the ball off the walls like 3 or 4 times. What a game. Better than Tetris. There, you heard it here first.
Oh, controversial.
I love Bust a Move
so much. Did you ever play Siphon Filter? I feel like that's a game that is just never made it on. I'm sort of aware of it in the distance.
I'm pretty sure that's one of the games that people kind of got like tentatively excited for when it was announced that it was going to be on the PlayStation Mini. It was kind of one of those games where it was like, oh yeah, Siphon Filter.
Yeah.
I can't wait to play that again. And everyone's just kind of like, oh right, yeah.
Oh yeah, this
Fine.
one.
Yeah.
Did you ever sort of mix, how obviously the Tony Hawk games sprouted, it took off, and then you started getting like Matt Hoffman's BMX and Dave Mira.
Yeah.
Did you play those?
I've never played any. No,
Dave Mira I was big into that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that was quite good.
And we've already mentioned Spyro because I feel like that's another game that has to be. I don't know if this is controversial, and I don't even know if this may even be a new opinion. But Crash Bandicoot isn't good and has never been good. I think as my
I completely agree with that. It's horrible.
it's,
It's just it's too hard. It's just too hard.
the amount of times it just makes you run towards the camera. That is probably one of my most hated things in video games, when it makes me run towards the camera.
That wasn't revolutionary, boys. It was shit. And why people copied that, I do not know, but it's awful. Like, that's the worst thing you can do to a player, is basically make them play with their eyes closed. Fucking terrible. It's not that much different.
He has stolen a living for generations now. That's old Crash.
He has. Like, why is the depth perception so off in that game?
It's an awful
so hard
platformer.
to judge the 3D of that game. And then you get to that bridge level and you might as well just burn yourself, because it's just awful. It's just torture. I got the Insane trilogy. I hated it. I played the original when my sister had it. Hated it.
Yep. Yeah. Guess that brings us.
That's that.
That's we've made it. The next podcast is almost certainly going to be Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yes, please.
We are now well into it, I think.
Yeah.
Having an enjoyable time with it. I think I texted you this today, but as a little sneak peek, I played today for 2 hours, and I played for more than that actually, but I played it. There was a 2-hour stint I did, and I reckon over an hour and a half of that was sitting watching cutscenes. It's mental. It's worse than the other two in terms of that. Or it's more egregious.
I think it calms down to around where you're at now with the Ocelot fight and moving onwards from there. But the beginning of that game is trying to explain like Cold War shit to you for a long time.
Even the gameplay you do get well. No, it's perfectly fine. It's just I just realised how much I'd been sitting watching. It's like even at the start of the game, there's a lot of those like parts when the gameplay in quotation marks is just you run forward for a little bit.
Yes, it really, really is.
And then you press.
I think once it gets a bit silly, it starts to become like really enjoyable to sit and watch the nonsense that's going on. Once they start introducing like all the bad characters, like the fear and whatever.
Yeah.
And every boss fight I've done so far has been fantastic. I haven't done the big sniper battle yet, but that one's apparently the next one I've got to do, so I'm very excited for that, even though I think that apparently takes like an hour.
Oh my god, does it?
The only thing that the thing I'm most jealous of you about with Metal Gear 3 and you playing it on PC is that you at least might be able to somehow pause the cutscenes, because I can't. I cannot believe on PS3 when they remastered it, they didn't allow me to pause the cutscenes, because what is wrong with you? I can't sit there. I've got a kid. I can't sit there for half an hour.
You can't guarantee, especially it's not like, oh, I've got a cutscene coming, I'll prepare for it. No. It'll jump on you.
Yeah, and even if you put the controller down, you might miss an press R1 for tits prompt. So
exactly.
You pick it up again. Exactly. You can't even relax. And it's not like if I have to stop in the middle of a cutscene, because I kept doing it. I can't remember what I was doing, but there was like people coming. There was going to be somebody coming to the house, and I was like, I can't risk this. Like, if I start this now, I'm going to be fucked. But it's not like if I get like 20 minutes into a 25-minute cutscene and then I have to turn the console off, I can't skip to where I was in that cutscene. I've got to watch it from the start again. Like, just let me pause it. Mental. Don't you hate that as well? Like, that moment in every game that you play, it's not so much of a concern these days, because most games are going to be respective of your fucking life. But certainly in old games, there's that panic that I always get when like a cutscene's on and I'm like, can I pause this?
Yeah. Do I?
I'm gonna press the start button.
Yeah.
Is it gonna? But what's gonna happen? And I did that with this, and it fucking skipped one, and I was like, oh, now I'm gonna have to skip 7 more to then go back and start watching them all again from the beginning, because I'd skip one and there'd be like 7 more afterwards to skip through, because I've missed the first one, so I've got to go back now and hope my save was just before it. But man, did I wish I not try and do that. And then you press the PlayStation button, that doesn't do anything. It just brings up the little menu over the top of the cutscene that's still playing. Shocking. But yeah, that gets me every time, that anxiety of, am I going to accidentally skip this cutscene?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be able to pause it?
That's such a good. I bet you every gamer has that anxiety.
Yeah.
what's going to happen when I press start.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, you can't press like X or A or B because that's definitely going to skip it. Because there's no pause function
No.
for the face buttons. It
This
has to be start.
The safest thing when you're playing on console used to always be press the menu button. So like the Xbox guide button
Well,
would often pause for you.
but one of them, I think it was like maybe PS4. That would just keep the game fucking going. It would just keep
carry
going while
on.
you suspended it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've been bitten by that, I think, on that console before, where you press that button and you go back to the game again and it's just carried on playing while you were not even looking at the game. Like, who programmed that? That serves no purpose to anyone because you didn't see it happening. Anyway, Metal Gear Solid 3 is coming up next. I think it's very good. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about how stupid this game is.
Oh, so much fun, yeah. Okay. Yep, I guess that brings us to the end of another episode of the Winners You podcast. If you like what you heard, and even if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to our podcast on your podcast feed of choice, or if you prefer to consume your podcast in a visual format, you can head on over to YouTube and search a Winners You podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If the podcast isn't enough for you, can also follow us on Blue Sky these days. We are having a great old time. If you head on over and search a Winners You podcast on Blue Sky, give us a follow and you will see us doing a daily, so it's like it's not even a daily game recommendation. It's known as, yes. What's that?
Game's actually good.
Mickey, what is that? Mickey's Wild Adventure.
Yeah, it's actually a good game. Sorry, carry on.
If you follow us on Blue Sky, and you'll see us doing a daily game. We're doing 20 games that have stayed with us or influenced us. Yes. And we're doing one a day, and we're having a swap about. Alex he brought out the big guns today and had Doom.
Yeah,
that's his game.
I think it's influenced a lot of us, hasn't it?
It has. So that I'm on Blue Sky as well. Super Smiley. What's yours, Alex?
Good question.
I was trying to find you there, but I didn't find you quickly enough.
I think I actually got in there quickly enough just to have Thrillix. Yes, Thrillix.
That's excellent.
At Thrillix. Yeah.
That is an excellent one.
No need for the super in there.
He's not gone super. Any housekeeping, Alex? Are we getting out of here?
No housekeeping from me. No new pods to talk about.
There we go. On that bombshell, I've been David, he has been Alex, and we have been a Winners You, and I'm out.
Keep gaming. Happy birthday, PlayStation.